I knew that I had this thing called a personality, but I had no way of relating to it. As a teenager, I would often look in the mirror and ask myself, who am I? Depending on which behavioral style you have will also depend on how you treat your kiddos. And we're only human. So on those days, forgive yourself. Pick yourself up, wake up in the morning and start all over again. Hi there. Today I'd like to talk to you about why your easy come, easy go parenting style might not work. When I was growing up, my parents were definitely not easy come, easy go ones. My mother was, and still is, I might say, is a woman that liked a routine. If it was interrupted, look out. Even to this day, she doesn't cope well with change. Every Saturday, we would be made to clean our rooms. This included dusting the furniture and folding and tidying our clothes in a drawer. As I got older, this routine became very frustrating to me, as all I wanted to do as a teenager was play netball, then go hang out with my friends. But no, Mum always made sure the routine was enforced. Now, your mum may have been completely different than mine. One of my friends' mums was the total opposite. On a Saturday, Penny was allowed to do whatever she liked to do, even if we were sleeping in until midday. Gosh, did I envy her, as I loved sleeping in, and still do. However, Penny's life tended to be rather hectic, and she used to complain to me at school that she didn't like a lot of this ups and downs that she was facing with every weekend. She was a girl that didn't like change that much, and at home her life was constantly changing. Penny's mum was a single parent bringing up 3 kids, often working 2 jobs and dating at the same time. Penny said that she often felt like the parent to her mum. She went on to share with me that her life felt like one big problem that she was always trying to solve. Now, Norman Vincent Peale, whom I'm sure some of you have heard of, well known for his positive thinking, once said, "The only people who do not have problems reside in cemeteries." Isn't this so true, though? And I think it's somewhat comforting. Everyone has problems, difficulties, obstacles to overcome in life. It's what shapes our character. Looking back on my childhood, I see that all the experiences I had growing up have modeled me into the person I am today. Before I was introduced to the DISC behavioral model, the needs, the fears, and emotions of my personality were unknown to me. I knew that I had this thing called a personality, but I had no way of relating to it. As a teenager, I would often look in the mirror and ask myself, who am I? I had an identity crisis that I didn't know how to deal with at the time. You see, your personality style is shaped and driven by your beliefs. And your beliefs are the decisions and the judgments that make up perceptions you hold to be true. Your belief system is essential because we live in a world filled with sensory information. All these sights, sounds, feelings, and tastes bombard us in any given moment. Our Creator had to give us a way to filter out what would otherwise be overwhelming or unnecessary. Your belief system focuses on whatever it determines to be relevant to your life experience, and it also shapes ours, yours, mine, your kiddo's personality. Now, you might think that how do you say that? Two two permissive parents, such as Penny's mum, are the ones whose kids have no rules, no curfew, no dress code, no manners. Some of it might be true, but they're not the only ones. You may be surprised that some of your habits could put you into the pushover or permissive parent category, according to experts. Even if you think that you're doing everything right with your teens and your tweens. Oh, and anything in between that as well. Many parents today understand their role, says parenting expert. I think it was Leonard Sachs. He lives somewhere in America. He's a family doctor. And he's also the author of Girls on the Edge and Boys Adrift. Fabulous, fabulous book. He says they often see their role as making sure the son or daughter gets into a top college or protecting them from disappointment. Depending on which behavioural style you have will also depend on how you treat your kiddos. Yep, it certainly does, because you have needs and emotions that are driving your personality. So in the DISC behavioural model, D dominance, it's an acronym, by the way, DISC is an acronym. D dominant styles focus on tasks, they like big picture problems, and they like to be in control, and under stress, they will become argumentative. The high I influence styles, they focus on people, they like social approval, and under stress, they can become sarcastic. They're very good with words, and they can become very sarcastic with those words. Now, the S steadiness style they like to focus on people. They like a steady pace to their environment, and under stress, they can be submissive. They do not like conflict. And last but not least, the C compliance styles, they focus on tasks. They like to plan and analyze, and under stress, these types will become withdrawn. They like to process everything up here. Now, many parents think they are there to provide a safety net in situations where it might be wiser to let kids experience the consequences, for example. Especially the S and the I style parents. Here are 4 common situation parents often find themselves in, and why you might like to think about what DISC style you are and about how you can change your ways, or how, what we say in PeopleSmart world, how you can adapt your approach. Now, when being a drill sergeant doesn't work, DISC styles like to take charge and dictate. No routine or limits in trying to be a friend. I styles can be disorganized and spontaneous, and they will always want to be your friend. Avoiding conflict. Like I said, the S stars tend to avoid conflict and are a little indirect in their approach and communication. Too critical and structured. Here comes the C styles. Can't worry a lot. Oh, no, they can worry a lot, actually. No, the Ds can't worry a lot. The C styles, they worry a lot, and they can be very impersonal. So let's look at these a little bit more in depth. When being a drill sergeant doesn't work, are you an authoritarian parent? When we are observing you with your kids, we might think of boot camp with you as the drill sergeant. A drill sergeant insists on unquestioning obedience. Don't argue with me, go to your room now. He punishes, or she punishes, autonomy. His purpose is to break the will so they can reshape people according to an absolute standard. They are in control at all times. They are not warm, fuzzy kinds of people, and they're not going to inspire feelings of intimacy. But when their system works, they can boast about one thing. Their recruits tend to obey. For instance, parents are more likely to be identified as authoritarian if they strongly agree with statements like, when I ask my child to do something and he asks why, I say something like, because I said so, or because I want you to do it now. Oh dear. Or this statement, I punish my child by withholding expressions of affection. Now, if you can relate to this style of parenting and you are a D style, how about becoming an authoritative parent instead? The authoritative parent style is an approach to child rearing that combines warmth, sensitivity, and the setting of limits. Okay, I'll say that again. Their approach to child rearing combines warmth, sensitivity, and the setting of limits. Parents use positive reinforcement and reasoning to guide children, and these parents often avoid resorting to threats or punishments. Here's some tips for developing a more authoritative parenting style. Gosh, I wouldn't like to say that 10 times fast, would you? So here's the key, guys. Develop and practice empathy. Yep, develop and practice empathy. Kids raised by authoritative parents are more likely to become independent, self-reliant, socially accepted, academically successful, and well-behaved. And so, no routines or limits and trying to be a friend is our next one. Now, some parents, such as the I style, are more concerned with their teenagers liking them and would rather not be an effective authority figure. They tend to create a peer relationship with them, I often say. A friend can't tell another friend, you're not allowed to do this. But sometimes a parent needs to say to that 14 or 15-year-old, often in the house there are no daily routines or limits, as these style types can be disorganized and routines irritate them. Okay. Generally, most children thrive when their environment is stable and predictable. So, how do you develop becoming less no routines or limits? Practice self-discipline so that you can make more wise choices and resist distractions, rather than being tossed around by your feelings like a leaf in the wind. Number 2, be committed to creating routines that bring order and peace to the family. It kind of creates a sense of harmony. And set limits for yourself by doing things on time. If your teen is, for example, an S style, they will so appreciate these routines. Sachs says some mums don't feel they have any authority at all. That's interesting, isn't it? Especially if their spouse is a D style, that can happen. Teens need authoritative parents to help them make the right choices, not friends to gossip with, Sachs says. If you're ready to change your relationship with your teen, you need to own that and make a big change. Sit down with your son or daughter and say, I haven't quite been doing things right lately. Also, remember to stay consistent with this change. Some days it might feel easier to give in because you've had an exhausting day, for example. You know, and we're only human. So on those days, forgive yourself. Pick yourself up, wake up in the morning and start all over again. So I've learned from experience that this causes more harm than good in the relationship. And you might remember that I mentioned earlier, there are 4 disc styles. I've only mentioned 2, the D and the I styles here. So check back for part 2 and I'll introduce you to the S and the C styles and why avoiding conflict and being too critical might not work as a parent. Now, if you would like to learn more about the 4 disc styles that I've been talking about or how to effectively deal with conflict, check out our courses at the PeopleSmart Academy by clicking on the link below. Also, leave a comment if you found any of these tips helpful. And for more of them and for resources to develop character in your children and in yourself, I might say, sign up for our PeopleSmart Inner Circle by clicking on the other link below. We'd love to see you there. You take care now. Authoritative parent instead, I think, is how you say that. Authoritative, something like that.